Disclaimer: the views expressed on this episode of Perspective Platoon with Prateek are solely the opinions of the host and the guest. The content of the conversation is not reflective of the institutions or establishments mentioned therein. Take all these opinions with a pinch of salt and a dash of lime if needed. Namaskara. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you're watching or listening, and welcome to this episode of Perspective Platoon with Prateek. My guest this week is David Farias. David and I met each other through the University of Central Oklahoma and have now known each other for close to 2-ish years, I want to say. In that time, we've not really had a ton of full blown conversations, but the first full blown conversation that we are having is now up for your enjoyment to listen to and sort of find things that you could relate to. The reason why I wanted to bring him on was because we both have an affinity for soccer, and I just wanted to talk about soccer and the psychology associated with it and some other things that David knows about the sport. For those of you who are not soccer fans, don't worry. You don't have to be bored out to death because we've also spoken about topics like planting, unpredictability, and representation. So I'm sure there's a lot of things that you could relate to, even if that topic is not soccer talk. Other than that, I also apologize for some of the background noise that you might hear during this episode because there were a few technical difficulties that we had to experience during this recording. Other than that, without further ado, I present to you David Farias on this episode of Perspective Platoon with Prateek. Hey David, how's it going?
I am tired, but yeah, that's
What
just
are you
because the
tired of? Gotcha.
semester's about to come and I'm not ready for it.
Gotcha. Yeah, so like let the people know who you are, some of your likes, some of your dislikes, things that you're interested in, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is David Ferris. I am a student at UCO, currently studying computer science and digital forensics with a minor in criminal justice. I really like plants. Like if you ever met me, that I really talk about plants. I have quite a few. I also like hockey and
Mm,
soccer. So
mm,
I have a few jerseys for them that I wear outside of school.
right.
But yeah, that's pretty much me. I'm an open book and I'm glad to be here.
Cool. Yeah, well, thank you for coming on. What are some things that you don't like? Like they can be as mundane as, not doing laundry or anything like that.
Oh, yeah. Man, cleaning I tend to push off just because
Right.
uh, I need to do it, but it's kind of like, do I want to do it? But yeah,
Yeah.
that I also don't like reading as much
Mm,
because my majors aren't exactly the ones where like reading is something you have to do, but it's
right.
more application based rather than like understanding or like kind of analyzing what you're reading.
Right.
Because while I do read like reports about different security concerns or how certain technologies are updated, I don't really have to understand why it was done that way, but I need to understand like how it affects certain concepts.
Hmm. Sort of like what it can lead into, like, or the causal effects that it might possibly have on
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Jumping off of one of your interests, you said plants.
Mhm.
I personally like, I mean, not to say that you can tell by looking at someone if they're into plants or not, but I personally didn't think that you'd be a person that was into plants. So what is it
Oh.
about plants? Like what got you into plants?
So when I first moved to Edmond
Mm,
because I'm a transfer student, I originally went to Cameron University because I was born in Lawton.
gotcha.
When I moved up here, I was kind of alone in my dorm room a lot, and I was
Mm,
like, man, ah. But SPB, the Student Programming Board, had like a
hmm.
little event. They gave a little bamboo stalk in some Orbeez, and I took
Mm-hmm.
one, and I was like, I can take care of this easy. So I had like a little, well, I had a few bamboo stalks in my dorm room because,
Right.
like, why not?
Yeah.
But when I moved to an apartment with family who
Mm-hmm.
also came to UCO, I bought this plant on my birthday. And
Mm.
I actually have a little propagation thingy right here. So it's like a rubber plant.
Oh,
And I've had this for, or I've had, this is a child. I had the mother for like almost 3 years.
gotcha. That's cool.
Um, so yeah, it just helped me like, oh, if I can take care of this plant, maybe I can take care of more. And I don't know if you can see like
Yeah, I see a couple
a
over there. Yeah.
little,
Oh, that's quite a few. Wow. Yeah.
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 And
Yeah.
my most recent one was I bought this bonsai. I'm
Oh,
very proud of
nice.
it. I just repotted it and watered it. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I love plants. They're so cute.
Cool. Is there something therapeutic about it for you?
Yes. Whenever, so like I try to take a day, normally a Saturday or Sunday evening, to just not do work.
Right.
It's sort of like a stress relief day. So I
Mm-hmm.
just take care of my plants. With the ones in water, I see if the water needs to be changed. For the ones in soils, I check to see if the soil is too dry, and if it is, I water them. I try to prune if necessary, but it's sort of like you don't need to worry about work. Like just take care of your plants, take care of yourself.
Mm.
If your plants are thirsty, you're probably thirsty. You probably need to drink some water.
Right.
I'm bad at
Uh-huh.
drinking water, so this helps me a lot.
Right. 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 It reminds you that you need to drink water.
Yes.
Cool. Interesting. That correlation is interesting. Like, you wouldn't think that you look at plants and like, oh, the plants need some water. Or probably I need some water too.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's interesting. Is it something that you look at as a hobby, or is it something that is just
Well, to be frank, I'm bad at words, so I don't know what the definition of a hobby is.
okay?
But I do like plants, and I hopefully when I do have a full-time job and I
Mm,
have a constant source of income, I want to buy a house so I can have a yard and hopefully a backyard garden.
cool.
Because while these indoor plants help me, I do want to grow like flowers or maybe like some fruits,
Mm,
vegetables in a backyard. Because in Lawton, um, I think that's where like my idea of planting came from because I bought okra seeds
mm,
and I was like, people like okra. I don't, but like my family likes okra.
uh-huh.
So let's try it out. And I planted it. It sprouted. I was like, oh, I'm doing something good. So I went to a little pot of soil, put it in there, started sprouting even more, growing a few leaves and such.
Mm,
So I took the pot, and it was like a peat pot, so you can just put the pot in the soil, and it'll biodegrade that way. Did it? It started growing bigger roots, and like okra actually came out, and I was like, oh, okay, okra is pretty simple. Like I'm, I have 100% success rate so far. So
yeah.
but like the concept of growing your own food
Mm.
so that you can eat it or you could give it to people who want to try different foods is like something that I really enjoy.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Funnily enough, actually, one of the other episodes I recorded earlier today, we spoke about the same thing about planting and sort of the sentiment that it brings out in terms of being able to eat off of the ground.
Mm,
That's probably going to be the episode that comes out after this one goes out.
okay.
But yeah, but that's cool. I didn't see the conversation going this way, but I appreciate you bringing that up. And yeah, I think that's something that living in a fast-paced world that we don't necessarily think about, and it's cool that you find it therapeutic.
Hmm.
What are some fruits or vegetables that you want to grow? That, like you said, you want to grow in the future. What are those that you want to grow?
So like I eat cucumbers and hopefully I could grow cucumbers in the future, but
Mm,
there's a plant called a loofah where
mm.
the loofah exfoliator comes from.
Oh, okay,
um,
interesting.
my aunt actually grew some in Lawton,
Mm,
and like they would just get the whole plant, chop it up. You could have. what do they call a dish sponge.
Mm.
It works
Hmm.
for dishes. You could use it in the bathroom. Exfoliate. You could use it just to clean like your shoes because it works as a brush too.
Right.
I think it's pretty versatile, and I would like to grow some one day.
Okay. So you don't need to spend money on buying sponges for your dishes. Just pluck
Yes,
them out of the
because
plant.
they do be getting expensive nowadays.
Right. That's fair. That's fair. What are some things you like about planting and you don't like about planting? I mean, you mentioned a few things briefly, but like if you were to dig deep in, like what are three things that you don't like and what are three things that you do like about
Okay,
planting?
yeah. So what I like about planting is like it isn't universal in a sense because like while you can grow the same thing as someone else, they might live in a more humid environment while here in Oklahoma it's pretty windy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to try to grow like if you were to try to grow, I want to say like tomatoes here, it would work, but if you were a little bit more sunny areas, it might work even better.
Right.
So it's like a self-paced kind of thing. Like you're
Mm.
gonna get there, you're gonna do your own journey. And that's
Right.
what I like about it.
Mm.
Another thing I like about it is that like to me, it's you're creating something
Mm.
or you're helping something grow to its full potential.
Mm.
And while you look at other people and like you see these big nurseries, you see these big farms, and you're like, wow, like peach trees are everywhere, apple trees are everywhere. You see a bunch of strawberry bushes, but they all started the same way with either seedlings in the ground or it's just something they've been growing hydroponically with some grow lights and they all started with a seed. So like
Mm.
if you could see that, it's kind of like motivation, like maybe I could try to grow a strawberry bush, maybe I could try to grow a peach tree, maybe I can help grow some flowers and make a little field in my backyard.
Right.
But some of the things I don't like about gardening is
Mm-hmm.
that it's really unpredictable
Mm.
because while you do have seeds, you're not guaranteed like every seed will germinate. You're not
Mm.
like guaranteed each stalk you have will bear something. So like um even though I grew okra in Lawton, that's not a guarantee. Like they could have all just died.
Mm-hmm.
Um I know I bought one of those like little succulent grow your succulent from Target,
Mm-hmm.
tried it, followed instructions, misted it, and none of the seeds worked. It was actually
Mm.
pretty sad. But it goes to show you like it is fun, but you're not guaranteed 100% success.
Mm.
I also don't like the bugs. So
Mm.
certain plants attract bugs, certain
Yeah.
plants repel bugs. I know lavender is a good plant to repel some bugs. I think mosquitoes is one of the bugs they repel.
Mm-hmm.
But like um, you grow marigolds, which I really love marigolds. They can attract bees, which can be beneficial to your flowers, the crops nearby, and the bees itself because bees are dying. And that's a really
Right.
sad thing.
Mm.
There is another thing I don't like about gardening, and it's that soil is becoming expensive.
Mm.
And this is like legit where math comes involved
Right.
because now you have like people with raised beds. So now you actually have to use like volume. And that's something I did not anticipate I would ever do in life. But
Mm-hmm.
you have to actually calculate volume. And then you
Yeah.
have to like do those word problems for math. Like if Johnny had a 10 by 3 by 5, how
Yeah.
many bags of soil do you need if a bag of soil is 5 liters? And I'm like, oh, math.
Right. But now it's helping you out.
Yeah, I'm like, yes, okay. I mean, my math teacher proved me right, but I didn't prove her wrong. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. That's interesting. You mentioned something about the unpredictability of growing plants and how you're not sure um, whether something will come out of it or not.
Mhm.
Just sort of taking it into a different sort of direction. Um, are you a person that doesn't like unpredictability in general, or is it just when it comes to growing plants?
Oh, What do you mean, like unpredictability in general, though?
Like in things like, for example, if you were doing a certain thing and you were expecting something else in return, um, do you like or do you not like the unpredictability of the expectations that you might have? It's a little deep
Mm.
to sort of transition, but I was just, yeah, that's just a thought that popped up in my head.
So I welcome any form of unpredictability
Mm,
because, again, if you know me, I don't like planning. Just
right.
because when you plan, you have a set of expectations that you want to go right.
Mm,
And I've encountered many, many times that even if I want something to go right and I plan it to go right, it still won't go right.
mm,
So unpredictability is something that I welcome. It's something that has happened to me many times, like through the course of my life, through the course of this year. And
mm, yeah.
I'm I'm always down to like think of what could go wrong and what
Hmm.
I could do to prevent it, but I can't always guarantee it to go right.
Right. Right. What is it you said about what's wrong and what's right? Do you think that there is a sense of subjectivity associated with that? Because a lot of the times we can think that, oh, this thing at the moment it's not right for you, but then down the road it's something that's definitely helped you out. So, like initially, can that subjectivity towards what's right and what's wrong sort of hinder the way you look at things, like for you
I
from a personal perspective?
To me it has,
Mm,
um because like I feel like that helps people grow as a person.
mm,
um if you always think things are going to be right, things are going to go a certain way, um that's great for you, like congrats, I've never had that happen.
mm,
But if, like, when things go off course or when things go kind of bad for you, you should treat that as a learning experience
right.
and just see what, if anything, that you could do. Because if nothing's in your control, I don't think you should feel that bad.
Mm,
But if there was something you could do differently, just learn from it, try it a different way, just see how it goes.
right. Right. Because I think, yeah, like a lot of the times we can get too held up about things that we can't control, like, oh,
Hmm.
why did this happen or why did that happen? But then at the end of the day, like what's helped me realize, or this is something that I've realized this past year too, is that I can't control everything. I can only do the best that I can, you know.
Hmm.
It's okay to worry about the things that are happening around you, but at the same time, if your happiness or the way you feel is going to be determined by that, you're going to be out of control. Like your emotions are going to run wild, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some experiences, like, or if you're willing to share, that you've seen that sort of progression where initially you were like, oh no, this, I don't like how this is going, but then sometime later you saw the brighter side of it. If you're willing to share, again, if you're not comfortable, that's totally fine. But if there's any, are there any experiences that have sort of, you've noticed that arc?
Mm, yeah. So I originally went to Cameron University,
Mm,
and my only major at that point was computer science. But I remember taking a course in high school for forensic science, and it was
mm,
something that piqued my interest, but it wasn't something I was like, yeah, I want to do this for a living. So I went to Cameron. I did full time, I think, 4 classes each semester just to see like what college life is. I didn't want to move yet because if I didn't feel like college was for me, I didn't want to waste that much money. So I just stayed at home.
mm-hmm,
But at Cameron, I was like, computer science is something I actually really like. I
mm,
think I could finish my career here or college career here. And plus, Cameron works with the Comanche County Memorial Hospital for certain programs. So they
mm,
help the hospital with just like how to keep track of patients. They could help Fort Sill. They have helped Fort Sill in the past with certain different radar systems and stuff like that. So I was like, if I go to school here,
mm,
there's like possibilities to help the community. There's possibilities for me to possibly meet people and just stuff like that. But in 2000, dang, I'm old. It was 2016, 2017. I think that was the academic year.
Mm-hmm.
I found out Cameron was going through a bunch of budget cuts, and the computer science department was one of them. And
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of sad because I was like, if I stay here, I might not get the best education. And even though there are possibilities, there might not be as many
Mm-hmm.
for each student. It might be
Mm-hmm.
limited. So I really thought about it, and like I remember going to a college fair at Cameron because I
Mm-hmm.
was like, why not? Like I'm already in
Right.
college. What harm could it do?
Mm-hmm.
I talked to a recruiter from UCO, and I told him like, hey, I heard you guys have a pretty good forensics program. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? Because it's always been in the back of my mind. He goes, yeah, I mean, our forensics program is ranked not only in the top 5 for the state of Oklahoma, but nationally one of the top 20, I believe, for the US. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh, that's actually a really big deal. He goes to tell me that the former director of the FBI actually teaches. And I was like, dang, that's pretty enticing because
Right.
not only are you going to, not only am I going to still pay in state tuition, I get to learn from people who have been in the FBI, in the OSBI, in various police departments. So I looked at it. It wasn't, the tuition and costs weren't too terribly off from Cameron University,
Mm.
but it's the fact that I had to move.
Right.
And moving was going to be a financial burden as well as a social disconnect because
Mm-hmm.
all my family were in Lawton. I
Yeah.
didn't really know anyone at UCO. So I just thought about it. Um, it wasn't until about February or March where I decided that I am going to transfer. And I told my mom about it. She was like, if you do this, you might need to get a new job. You might need to like rearrange how you spend stuff. And I was like, yeah, I know. But it's like, if I didn't know there were budget cuts happening at
Mm.
Cameron, I don't think I would have transferred to UCO. But transferring to UCO has been one of the best decisions I've made because not only do I have better educational opportunities, not to diss Cameron in any way, like it was
Yeah.
great there, but just because of the experience the professors have here at UCO,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it helps me learn things in a more practical sense than a classroom setting.
Yeah.
But I've also met some of my best friends here at UCO. So like I was pretty shy, but eventually I came out of my shell.
Mm.
I've met a lot of great people here. I've met a lot of great faculty, staff, and advisors, and I don't regret transferring here. And I feel like that sort of like step out of my comfort zone
Mm-hmm.
has paid off tremendously.
Mm. That's awesome. That's awesome. You mentioned how you don't regret moving here to Edmond and to the University of Central Oklahoma. What are some things that you've learned from UCO, let's say? Like something or yeah, let's go with that one first. What are some things that you've learned from UCO, from your interactions with people or being part of multiple sort of organizational boards on campus and so on and so forth? What are some things that you've learned?
I learned that representation matters
Mm.
because in growing up, I didn't see a lot of Mexicans or Asians in leadership positions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I graduated with, uh, I don't remember how many Mexicans or Asians, but I know it was just a handful. But I didn't graduate with that many, so that probably makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So when I moved here, um, the first thing I saw were international students, people of color, who were just roaming campus. And I was like, whoa, this is different for me. I've never seen this before.
Yeah.
And not only that, I saw Edmond and OKC, like the leadership in both those cities.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, wow, they have a lot here that I didn't see in Lawton. So
Mm-hmm.
like in OKC, there's the Asian districts. There's Calle dos Cinco, which is Southwest 25th Street, and it's a really popular Hispanic place.
Mm-hmm.
There's just different events that happen in OKC and events that happen in Edmond and events that happen at UCO where I feel like I've gotten to know a lot more outside
Mm-hmm.
of the classroom. And I feel like that's helped me grow as a person.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think representation matters?
Because so growing up as a Hispanic male, like my dad was Mexican,
Mm-hmm.
and most of the times the things that I would see on TV regarding Mexican American or Mexicans in general were negative. Like
Mm-hmm.
it would be a drug bust and the suspects were Hispanic. It would be maybe like a hit and run, a drive-by shooting. It would just be stuff that would paint Hispanics in a negative light
Mm-hmm.
that I felt like um, if many kids saw it, they would just see it as like, this is what I'm bound to be. But here in OKC, in Edmond, I've seen several Hispanic, Asian, Black, LGBTQ plus, and other identities become great leaders. And I'm like, they're doing something for their community while also showing that these kids can do it too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I feel like representation matters the most.
It's empowering, you would say, in
Mm-hmm.
a lot of
Yes.
ways. It gives
Yes.
you, it shows you that you can do things and you don't have to be a certain way to get somewhere in life.
Yeah. And it also shows you that you have a mentor because these people not only got into the positions they are in now, they want to help other people be in
Hmm.
similar positions.
Yeah. Do you think, again, if you're comfortable sharing, have you had any experiences where you've experienced the negative side of things that made you feel like, oh, I guess I'm, I guess the word destined is a little too strong, but I'm gonna end up the same place based off of what I'm seeing? Like, have you had those sort of experiences at all?
I've not had those experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I've had like some people give me a dirty look just
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not white. Like, that's
Yeah.
just a thing. But
Mm-hmm.
it's something I've gotten used to, unfortunately. I've had thoughts about it because I'm like, is there like growing up, is there like a place for me to grow? Is there like a safe space where I will have people who will support me in this
Mm-hmm.
outside of family? But I've not had any experiences where I'm like, yeah, I'm just like, this is the only way of life. I've
Mm-hmm.
not had any of those.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Um, you mentioned that your dad is Mexican.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to pivot into a slightly more lighter topic. You mentioned that you also like soccer.
Yeah.
Did that have something to do with it? Like because Mexico is very much into their soccer. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So was that
It
something that
was
played a role in getting you into it?
it was kind of like it was like a two-part decision.
Mm,
So yes, my father is Mexican and he helped me get into soccer,
mm,
but I also, like many school children, we played soccer
mm,
in elementary school. But like playing soccer um, at school and then watching, learning more about soccer from him helped me kind of like understand what the sport is.
mm.
And I really appreciate him taking time to do that.
Right, right. Did it help you connect with him in a different level, you would say?
Yes, the first World Cup I think we watched together was 2002 in
Mm,
Japan, Korea.
yeah.
And that's when I was like, oh, this is actually like a game. Like people get paid for this game.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's when he started telling me like basically what the rules are, why some people can do it, why some can't. Um, and just like what the World Cup actually means. Like it's the
Mm,
nations representing their confederations, it's the people representing their nations. It's basically the biggest stage for any soccer match.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I also, am a person, we've talked about this before off air, that about soccer, and we
Mhm.
both like soccer, but I used to follow soccer. I wouldn't say it's something that I kept up with that often, but it was, I think the 2018 World Cup was probably one of the best World Cups, I guess, it's what I've heard a lot of people say. Um,
This is true. Yeah,
yeah.
I wouldn't say it was the best World Cup,
Okay.
but I would say it was one of the most memorable.
Right. Right.
Hmm.
Yeah. And again, I don't have a larger sample size to say which one was the best one because, I haven't watched as much. But
Yeah.
that was sort of like the pivotal point for me to like actually put myself a lot more into soccer. So
Hmm.
what is it about soccer that you like watching or that keeps you in high spirits? What is it about the sport?
Ah, everything. I love the atmosphere it creates. I love how simple the game is. I
Mm,
love how big the fan base is. So
right.
like most of the best leagues are in
Mm,
Europe. So we
right.
have the German league, the French league, Spanish league, the English league, and everyone has their eyes on
Right.
certain teams in those leagues. So like in England, some of the best teams are like Liverpool FC, Manchester United, Manchester City,
Right.
Chelsea, and it's not only a there's not only a fan base in those cities, they also expand to the world. So like
Yeah.
I've seen people in Indonesia, South Africa, here in Oklahoma. People are wearing these international or like not international. They wear these jerseys from across the sea.
Right.
So I feel like that global outreach
Hmm.
is just something that, in my opinion, makes soccer one of the best sports.
Yeah, I think it's one of the world's most watched sports, right? Like in
Yes, I
terms of the
believe
amount of
so.
people, in terms of the amount of people it brings together.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways it's quite beautiful because I mentioned the 2018 World Cup earlier. I would go out with a friend of mine weekends. My friend was Colombian, and we'd go to like beat ups or Buffalo Wild Wings. For those of you who don't know, um, we'd go and watch like games and beat ups,
Yeah.
and it was really fun. Like watching the games in a atmosphere like that. It was
Hmm.
something different from watching it on your own couch at home. Sure, I mean you
Hmm.
can still enjoy the game for sure, but I think that collective sort of atmosphere it brings, and I think it's not just unique to soccer. I think it's the same with a lot of different sports. Um, it just brings people together in some way or
Yeah.
the other, which is really beautiful. Which is, yeah, I think not many things in this world have the ability to bring people together, because most things you see in the media now is just people being torn apart and etc etc. But I think that's one beautiful gift that we have, a sport that brings people together. um have you played soccer a lot, or like in the past or now do you still play soccer?
I stopped playing competitively after
Mm,
the fifth grade,
gotcha.
just because I didn't feel like it's something I wanted to do as an obligation. I
Right.
do like to play with friends when we can.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not like that person who goes and scores the goal.
Yeah.
I'm more like the guy in the back just because I hate running. I hate running for the ball. I will rather
You'd
try to
rather be a
block.
defender.
Yeah, I'd rather try to block the ball with any
Hmm.
part of my body rather than
Right.
like go up the field because I'm like, that's not my job.
Right. So you probably enjoy the sport, watching the sport more than playing it.
No, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is no secret.
Yeah. And again, I think there's nothing wrong with that specifically. Like if you like watching a sport more, then so be it. Like, I can't think of the last time I played soccer, to be honest. It was probably back home.
Mm.
Was it back home? Yeah, I think it was back home in India when I was in school. I might be forgetting something, but I feel like it was back home. So yeah, like you, I enjoy watching the sport a lot more than playing it. What are some of your favorite teams or your favorite players? Excuse me.
Okay, so all my favorite players are going to be defenders,
Okay.
just because that's my bias. So
Right.
like Maldini,
Mm-hmm.
one of the best defenders in the game.
He's an
Puyol,
Italian from AC Milan. Yeah.
yes,
Just to put
he's
things into context. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, he's a legend at AC Milan. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like they should name something after him soon,
Mm.
but I don't know yet.
Yeah.
Um, I really like Carles Puyol from FC
Mm.
Barcelona. He's that
Mm.
one club man. My bad,
Very good.
but
Yeah.
it's just the loyalty, the time he spent, and also what he's been able to achieve with them
Yeah.
is just why have I fell in love with FC Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
People think it's like, oh, you like Messi. I'm like, Messi's good, but it's like I like defenders, not really attackers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
it went from Puyol to Pique, but now Pique is kind of getting old. So
Right.
hopefully we have someone from the academy go up. I don't know yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Do you think maybe a Garcia from Barcelona, he's in City right now, Manchester City, but
mhm.
do you think he'll be someone that could replace them?
Probably.
Yeah.
I know the U.S. international Dest, Serginho Dest, is at Barcelona right now,
Yeah.
alongside with Conrad de la Fuentes.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to see them succeed there. Like an American playing at one of my best clubs or my favorite clubs, yeah,
Yeah.
I would absolutely buy their jerseys in a heartbeat once I have the
Yeah.
money.
Yeah. Yeah, because those jerseys are expensive, really
Yeah.
expensive. Yeah, 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 for sure. Um, this was something that I wanted to talk about because we spoke about the fact that we talk more about soccer on this episode. Um, is the sort of, I don't know if this is the right word, but the psychology of following soccer in some way. I mean, I'm no way a psychology major or anything, but um, I think psychology is maybe a heavy word, but like just the way that people approach it. You see a lot of these fandoms, and like for example, there's a Ronaldo fan club and there's a Messi fan club,
Yeah.
and it's either you like him or you hate him, or you love him
Mhm.
or you hate him. It's that sort of very one-dimensional. It's either this or that sort of sentiment that people might have towards soccer or the players. Um, why do you think that is? Like, have you thought about that ever?
I have. I
Mm.
think it's just, to me, it's the mindset of this person is the best,
Right.
and that's a fact. So, like, people think Messi is the best, and they have the right to.
Yeah.
I am indifferent about it. I don't know if I consider him the best yet, but he is one of the best players currently playing.
Hmm.
I have friends who say that Ronaldo is the best, and yeah, Ronaldo is pretty good. He's established himself in 3 different countries. I think he's a great player,
Right.
but it also could rely on club rivalries.
Mm.
So, like the reason, or I think one of the reasons the Messi Ronaldo debate is so big is because they played at Barcelona and Real Madrid, respectively.
Right.
And that is one of the biggest rivalries in the world.
Hmm.
Um, I can tell you, I am one sided on that rivalry. I think
Hmm.
Barcelona is the best club just
Hmm.
because I have very strong feelings against Real Madrid. And
Hmm.
I don't let it be unknown whenever I talk to my Real Madrid friends. They're like, "Did you see the game?" And I'm like, "Don't talk to me about the game."
Right. 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 Yeah. Yeah.
That could be a factor. It also could be a factor because um, they not only represent a club, they represent a nation.
Mm.
Messi is from Argentina, Ronaldo is from Portugal. So they have club supporters and country on their back.
Hmm.
And that is a hard title to have, but when you're like that and you've proven yourselves to be one of the greats, I don't think they have any problem
Yeah.
playing the game.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Like, because I personally, and I've heard quite a few journalists, like soccer journalists, say this. It's like, why can we not enjoy both of them? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what is stopping us from enjoying both of them? And I think some of it is what you just said, about sort of that hardcore association with one side.
Yeah.
Whereas, I personally, I would say I fall into that bracket of being, oh, I just enjoy soccer in general. While I personally prefer Ronaldo, um, I don't necessarily hate Messi.
Hmm.
Before, when I wasn't necessarily a huge fan, like you know what the term plastic fan, right? I used to probably be
Yeah.
a soccer plastic fan before until
Yeah.
2018, but after 2018, I'm probably a more I don't know if I'm necessarily that knowledgeable, but I'm quite knowledgeable, I would say. A knowledgeable soccer fan and not necessarily a plastic fan. And I think watching the sport has sort of developed a perspective that I never thought it would have. Like, for
Hmm.
example, Liverpool, which is one of the teams that plays in the English Premier League, um, like the psychology associated with the manager who's German,
Hmm.
Jurgen Klopp, and like the team that they've had, or with the trajectory that they've had. I just find it quite fascinating, like because they're a team that is very much representative of um, the manager himself. Like his
Yes.
personality is like the personality of the team. So I just find that quite interesting because I don't think people necessarily think about stuff like this quite deeply.
Hmm.
But I'm someone that does. Are you someone that thinks about it that way too?
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like, um, Jurgen Klopp has done wonders at Liverpool,
Yeah,
considering when he came in 2015, he quickly like set a game plan of what he wanted
yeah,
and who he wanted.
right,
I feel like many managers are like that, like Jose Mourinho.
right.
Um, I believe he's the current manager for Tottenham Hotspur,
Mm-hmm.
another team in the English Premier League, but he has a more defensive mindset.
Yeah,
You could see it when he coached Porto FC from the Portuguese league or Real Madrid from the
right.
Spanish league, and you could see his how his mindset affects the player he chooses to be in the starting 11. He
Mm-hmm.
plays great defenders and a lot more midfielders, but he plays strikers who can handle like one-on-one situations.
It's
Whereas
more
you see,
counter-attacking.
yes, where you see as like of course Pep Guardiola from
Mm-hmm.
Manchester City, he has more of like a, I would say like a passive play because he
Mm.
tries to see what techniques the opposition uses and then tries to catch them off guard in a
Yeah,
sense. So just seeing how their mindsets are different, you can see how their squads are different because Guardiola plays with more midfielders, but they are prone to attacking.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Like, I think recently there was a book that came out. I haven't bought it yet, but I want to buy it. Like, it's about the journey that Liverpool has taken from that point in 2015 to
Mhm.
winning the Champions League, which is probably one of the biggest trophies to win in the world in terms of
Yes.
soccer, other than the
Mhm.
World Cup, of course, but for club
Mhm.
football specifically, and winning the League Cup or like the English Premier League. Um, I just find it fascinating, like the way like if you dig deep enough, I mean, I guess this is everything in life, but like even in sport, there's a lot of life lessons to pick out. um
Yeah.
yeah, do you are there any life lessons that you've picked out of soccer or that you've thought about, if not necessarily if you've picked out?
Yes. This is not only for soccer. I've seen this
Yeah.
in many other sports, but just like being patient
Mm,
can really play wonders because while you can sign great players
yeah,
and you can have what's considered like a stacked team, like everyone can do their job well, it's not going to mean much if they don't know how to play with each other. So
yeah.
like something that highlighted this was the hockey film Miracle,
Mm,
where the U.S. coach recruited a bunch of college students instead of professional hockey players to represent the U.S. Olympic. I
mm,
think in 1984, but it was the Winter Olympics, and he didn't want people that were essentially like great at their positions. He wanted people that were great at playing well with others,
mm,
so that they could grow and then find their own individual strengths. Like there was a scene in the movie where they were running drills, and three players were connecting so well that he called them in his office, and they thought they were going to be cut, but he said, "How would you guys feel if you guys ran the same drill with each other? Like whenever they ran the drill, they would go as a trio."
Mm,
And they said that they connected pretty well and they would love to do that opportunity.
mm,
And I feel like just understanding that team chemistry plays into every sport just
mm.
shows you that you can't rush a title.
Right. Yeah, because sometimes you're very much like, oh, I want it now. But
Yes.
then there is that sense of patience that we all need.
Mm-hmm.
If you try and associate it with Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp, or your, I don't know, your promotion at the job that you work at, it's like, it's going to take time. Like you have to put in the groundwork to be able to get there. And I'm not talking about this from a perspective of like having lived life or anything. It's just an observation, I guess.
Yes.
More so that, it takes a lot of patience, and that's a huge thing. And you also spoke about teamwork. Because I'm sure you've also been a part of a lot of organizations on campus.
Yes,
And
I have.
there's a sense of teamwork over there where you have to work together
Mm-hmm.
towards reaching a certain goal. Sure, there's always going to be negative experiences because it's like both sides of the coin. Like, there's always going to be pros and cons,
Mm-hmm.
but eventually, like, you do pick out something that sticks with you from being a part of a team. Because
Yes.
I guess like it's like that saying goes, like unity isn't strength. Is that right? I don't know if
I
I'm
have no
framing it
idea.
right, but yeah, like there is strength in unity and being together, and especially during times like this when everything is so divided. I
Mm-hmm.
think sports can be one of those huge reminders that we can be together, and not just in the frame of soccer, but in the frame of life.
Yes.
Because especially with recent events at the time of recording, which is, and just things in general, like it just feels like the world is tearing itself apart,
Mm-hmm.
um, rather than bring coming together. Um,
Yes.
yeah. Do you think Yeah, I don't. I kind of lost my train of thought. Uh, um, Soccer is still a sport that's still growing in America. To speak about it from a more commercial sense, it's not at the height of American football like the NFL or
Mm-hmm.
NBA for that matter. Um, do you see any sort of thought processes or something that could possibly help elevate the sport in this country?
So I think it's just exposure to the sport itself
Right.
because um, at least I feel here in America, the
Mm,
top three sports is going to always be baseball, football, and basketball.
right.
Like, yes, there is hockey, and yes, there is soccer, but I don't I don't think those are highlighted as much as the other three. Just because of how big the other three are. So like baseball has been here since about the 40s or 50s.
Right.
It is America's pastime sport. Basketball has just grown over the country. Like you have teams in Oklahoma, you have teams in Ohio, you have
Mm,
teams coast to coast. NFL, oh, I don't know when the NFL started, but I'm like NFL, the National Football League has established itself here
yeah.
um, for a while too, as long or probably the same time as baseball.
Yeah.
So they've grown with the country, and now everyone sees the NFL shield. They know that there's football happening somewhere.
Right. 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 Yeah, I think so. That's the case with India too. Like, I mean, it's growing a little more now, but
Mm-hmm.
cricket is like the go-to sport. Like how football is to America, I would
Mm-hmm.
say cricket is to India. But magnify that by like 100, because like the emotions that go into the way people feel about cricket is just crazy. Like you have moments when the national team is winning, you have people like sort of celebrating in the streets, like it's very celebratory, but then you
Mm-hmm.
see them lose the World Cup, and then you see people burning effigies of the captain, and
Yeah.
it can get very divisive and very polarizing, I guess.
Mm,
So yeah, I think I personally feel like it'd be more happier if we were able to be in between that spectrum rather than being at the extremes.
yes.
But hey, like we said, you can't control everything. You can just hope for the best and
Yep.
sort of try and spread the message of being in that middle zone rather than being in the extremes. Yeah.
And I feel like we could help bring exposure to the sports,
Mm,
because if you think about it, basketball is probably the closely related sports to both soccer and hockey,
mm,
because um well, at least to me, basketball is also one of my favorite sports,
right.
because you see not only a bunch of superstars, but you also see, like I said, the team chemistry within each organization.
Right.
And in my perspective, there's more team chemistry happening within hockey, basketball, and soccer
Hmm.
than compared to baseball, where it's not much team chemistry, but it's more team trust. Like, I trust you're going to get this ball. I trust
Right.
that you're going to make a great play.
Mm,
Or in the NFL, the National Football League, there's more trust between a certain number of players. So you trust um, your offensive line that they're going to
mm,
stop anyone from coming. You trust that one receiver is going to be open, and you trust that that quarterback is going to throw a perfect throw or pass to that
mm,
receiver. But
right.
like, there are going to be some instances where team chemistry is involved. It's just not as prevalent in those
Mm,
two sports.
yeah. 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 I can see that for sure. Yeah. Just to take a bit of a hard pivot, I guess, from soccer to, because I can't necessarily think of a better way to do it, but so we're just going to transition into it like hard, like a hard
Okay.
turn. You mentioned that you have a lot of interest in computer science and forensic science. What is it
Yes.
about? What is it about those two things that sort of engage you in it?
So it's all because of my high school teachers.
Mm,
I had a high school teacher, um, Mr. Probst. I don't know if he still works at Cash, but
mm,
he helped me learn about coding
mm,
and um, HTML and stuff like that. And I was like, this is actually pretty cool. I don't mind doing this.
mm,
So I was eager to learn outside of the classroom. I started doing Code Academy. I've looked up certain coding videos and stuff like that just to see what coding is and what the languages mean, because it's not all in one language. Like, there's Python, there's SQL, there's Java, and JavaScript, which I cannot stress enough are two separate things.
mm-hmm.
Um, there's C sharp and C++, again,
Mm,
two separate things. And it's just like, it's so big.
yeah,
And to me, it's something I was like, yeah, I could see myself doing this.
right.
But in my last year, or my senior year of high school, I took an introduction to forensic science course, because I was like, I need an elective. Forensic science sounds pretty dope. Let's do it.
Mm,
And the teacher I had, Mr. Reynolds,
mm,
I feel like he's a great teacher because he explained things that I could understand. So when he explained what different types of evidence
mm,
is, as well as what they mean in like a courtroom,
mm,
um, yeah, I feel like I was like, okay, I can understand what trace evidence is. I can understand what casting means, which
mm-hmm.
is where you use, um, normally it's like dental stone or cement, where
Yeah.
you can put over a shoe print to perfectly preserve it so it can be further analyzed. And it was like that thing where I was like, this is actually kind of cool. But then he started talking about the other side of forensics, which is the biology and chemistry side. So, like toxicology, you
Mm-hmm.
have forensics pathology, or you
Right.
have medical examiners, and I don't deal well with blood. So that's like not for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the final month of school when we
Hmm.
started talking about digital forensics, because the discipline itself is relatively new,
Yeah.
with computers being widely available in the 90s, late 80s, stuff like that. So digital forensics is one of the things that they're still trying to figure out, like what are the best methods, what are the best procedures, and what are the best tools for this discipline.
Mm.
And I remember him talking about what it was, and I
Yeah.
paired it so well in my head with what coding was, and it
Mm.
just clicked. So that's why it was always in the back of my head.
Yeah. Cool. I think based off of what you just said, I think the teachers, like you said, have played a huge role in sort of you liking these two things.
Yeah.
Um, how important do you think it is for us to have good teachers? Because I've always heard, like back in the day, like at least when some of my teachers would say, it's only 20 teacher. The teachers only have to put in 20% of the effort, but the rest of it, like the 80% is on you, kind of thing. But I still feel like that 20% is still very important.
Mhm.
So for you, as a like from your perspective, how important is it that the teachers sort of create that atmosphere, if you will, for you to like what you're learning?
I think it's very important because, um, regardless of what education you're in, you can be elementary, middle school, high school, or even in college. If you see a professor, a teacher just go
Mm,
up and they speak in a monotone, kind of repetitive way, you're
yeah.
not going to learn that much.
Right.
Like, even in college, I've had some professors who, they just don't try to bring any energy to the classroom. They just sort of, um, like, put facts out there and expect you to understand and comprehend them.
Yeah.
Some teachers I've had, like, they not only put facts, but they add why they matter. They add what they've done, or
Mm,
like personal anecdotes to where this comes into play in the real world.
right.
And I feel like having that kind of like connection between what you're learning and why it matters is super important, because you see what it leads to rather than what it is.
Mm, mm. Yeah, like you said, I think those anecdotes that they share, it sort of makes it more relatable, if
Mhm.
you will. It gives you, like, again, it gives you that sort of framework to sort of see, oh, this is what could happen,
Yeah.
or there's many ways that this can go. And I think it lets your imagination do the work for you,
Yes.
rather than being in math class where you're just thrown with multiple theorems and you're like, oh, okay, I just have to
Mhm.
like mug this up and then vomit it back onto my paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I yeah. I mean, I personally have subjects that I don't like, or I've had subjects that I don't like even in high school and things. But yeah, like there are some teachers that I still remember, like even if not much for the things that they taught me in terms of like the subject, but just the teachers, like for them being themselves. I think I still remember a lot of them for those reasons. And I think it's really important to have good teachers. And I mean, I'm not saying all teachers are bad or like, because they have their own struggles, of course. Like,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
don't see what's happening behind the wall, so to
Mhm.
speak. But it's nice. It's nice to have a teacher who can like sort of help your imagination take you to places and sort of help you create a framework that you like, rather than following a set sort of template. Like
Mhm.
you said earlier, you're someone that likes the unpredictability of things. You don't want to like plan.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it sort of falls into place in that sense too. You're like, you want your imagination to take you there. um yeah, yeah. Cool. Anyway, I think transitioning into the last third of this episode, or the last quarter, I guess, of this episode, we're gonna go into this segment called Bish Bash Bosh,
Ah,
where
yes.
you've seen clips. For those of you who
Yes.
don't know, I do put up these clips on Instagram as well, so go check them out on Random Relatability's Instagram page. I've linked that down below as well, so go check it out for the previous episodes. But yeah, so basically, I'll give the guest 5 words, and these are 5 recurring words that I'll be throwing at every guest that I have on, and they have to respond to these words in three words or in 3 phrases. So, like, for example, if I was to say soccer, the first three things that come to the guest's mind is what they'd have to say. So I'm assuming you already know what this is. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna give you the 5 words, and you let me know what you think. So
Okay.
the first word is differences. What comes to your mind when I say the word differences?
That's a good one. I would probably say like respect,
Mm,
diversity,
mm,
and personal.
mm,
Those are the 3 words I would say. Yeah.
mm. Gotcha. What comes to mind, or what are the 3 things that come to mind when I say the word nuance?
Mm.
Excuse me.
What is a nuance? I don't know what that word means.
It's kind of like knowing that it's not just black and white, that there is a lot of gray. Um, like, for example, we just think, I mean, in most cases, sure, like we associate things to have just two, like a coin to have 2 sides, but
Mm-hmm.
then there's a lot more to it than what meets the eye. So
Ah,
I that's how I would put it. Like, yeah.
okay, okay. The 3 words I would probably say is perspective,
Mm,
facts,
mm.
and listening. Those
Interesting.
are the 3 words.
I like the fact that you mentioned listening on there because I think it's important to understand nuance. So cool.
Yes.
The third word is learning. What comes to your mind when I say the word learning?
Ooh, learning, growth,
Mm,
fun,
mm,
and probably experience.
nice. The fourth word is wait, what is it? Empathy. I forgot the word for a second. Yeah.
Empathy. I think in my head, empathy is friendships,
Mm,
um, support systems, and just self care
mm,
is something I would say. Yeah.
cool. The last word is similarities. What comes to your mind when I say the word similarities?
Ooh, similarities. Similarities would probably, in my head, be for unity.
Mm-hmm.
No, this is hard.
No worries, man. Whatever comes to your mind first.
Well, that's the thing. I have a limited vocabulary, so I said most of the words I know already. uh, so unity.
Mm-hmm.
Dang. This is gonna give me a second.
No
Uh,
worries. Do you think that there's some similarities that you could possibly pick out from soccer and like the lessons that it throws at you in terms of life lessons, or yeah, similarities in that sense,
similarities in that sense.
or anything like similarities that you can pick out from um planting and forensic science? I don't know, like,
Oh, yeah, there can be similarities in there because, um, like I said, being patient,
Mm. Oh yeah, for sure.
um, in planting in any basically hobby or discipline, you never stop learning.
Right.
Um, I feel like learning is something you always do as a person,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just personal growth, in my opinion.
Hmm. Gotcha. Cool. So for the last two questions the last one's not a question necessarily, but for the penultimate sort of question, how do you relate to people, like in any scenario, like irrespective of them having different opinions compared to you or similar opinions? What are some things that you find as ways to relate to people?
So the first thing I do is like I try to see from their perspective,
Mm,
um, but I can't always see eye to eye with them because I'm not gonna see what they see.
right.
Uh, like I have, so I'm both Hispanic and Asian. My mom
Mm,
is. I always get these two mixed up. I think she's from China,
mm,
but she was born in Vietnam.
okay.
So like, there's that. My
Mm-hmm.
dad is Mexican, so it's
Right.
like I can understand certain things, but like I can't understand what it means to be um like someone who came from Vietnam or someone who came from China. I'm not gonna relate to them, even though we're
Yeah.
both technically like Asian.
Mm,
Um, but I try to see why they think the way they think.
mm,
Um, and then I see, or I tell myself, what would I do in that position?
right.
Because would it be different? Would it be the same?
Mm-hmm.
If it would be the same, I can see why we have similar opinions. But if it would be different, maybe I can understand why they would choose a different option than what I
Mm-hmm.
would choose.
Yeah. Do you think that it takes a level? This is probably a sub question to this main question, but do you think that it takes some sense of acceptance, even though you can't relate to them? Like to sort of be like, okay, I don't get it, but they probably have their
Yeah,
reasons for doing what they're doing. Yeah.
yeah. It can be weird at first because I've
Mm,
met people who are like, um, who just I don't agree with some of the things they say,
yeah.
um, and I'm like, all right, you do you. Like, I'll
Right.
still talk to you. I'm still your friend, but it's like I just don't agree 100% with that statement.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it does feel weird the first time because you're
Mm-hmm.
just like, like there's something you don't agree on, but
Right.
you still agree on a majority of things. And it's kind of like that mindset of you could talk hours and hours about similar subjects, but the moment something in your mind that's controversial comes up, you just don't want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fair. Fair. I agree. Yeah. Yeah. So in that sense, let's head on to this last, again, not a question, but more of a request, if you will. Leave the people with a positive thought or a positive affirmation or whatever it is that you want to leave us with.
Uh, so it's been like a weird year for
Yeah.
everyone. That's no secret. But the fact that you made it this far means that you're still trying. You're still trekking through. Just don't give up.
Mm,
Like, I know this year has seen things from like pandemic to calls for major reforms in all parts of the nation to even like as simple as going to register to vote if you can. Like, if you're still adamant about those things, don't let it die.
mm,
Don't let it just be a 2020 thing. Like, just keep it going.
yeah.
Keep doing you. Only you can be you. Just don't
Mm,
stop.
yeah. Fight the good fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fight the good fight. On that note, thank you, David, for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time off to do this, man. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I mean,
Yeah.
I really appreciated it. It was very insightful. I didn't really think about half of those questions until today. So thank you
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah. No worries, dude. And thank you for everybody who's watching and listening. We'll see you guys next time. Cool. Thank you for watching this episode of Perspective Platoon with Prateek. Make sure to follow David on his social media accounts and mention in the comment section below some of the things that you found interesting or intriguing about the conversation today. Make sure to also check the description for other sources of content and information that we've spoken about on this episode. Make sure to like this video, share it around, and subscribe to the channel and follow Random Relatability on all social media platforms. If you've watched this video till its end, I appreciate you for doing so. Thank you so very much for joining in on the conversation. Until next time, stay safe, take care, and don't forget to keep your mind open to different perspectives, because you never know, random relatability might just be around the corner.